Imagine, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you see is a message about another crisis. Then a call from a colleague with bad news. Then a queue at the store where the cashier is clearly not in the mood. And so day after day, as if the world has conspired against you. Sound familiar? Now imagine a person living in the 2nd century Common Era. He rules a vast empire, wages wars, loses children, fights epidemics, and yet remains calm, wise, unshakable. This is Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher on the throne who left us a treasure of wisdom in his Meditations. His formula is painfully simple: rational perception, right action, inner peace. 3 things capable of transforming chaos into order and confusion into clarity. But why exactly these 3? Why not 5, not 10? The answer lies in human nature. We are beings who perceive the world, act in it, and experience the consequences of our actions. And if even one of these elements fails, the entire system collapses. Think about the last time you felt true inner peace. It was probably a moment when you clearly understood the situation, knew what to do, and were ready to accept the result. There it is, Marcus Aurelius's formula in action. Perception is how we interpret reality, not what happens, but how we understand it. Rain can be an annoyance for someone and a blessing for a farmer. Getting fired, a catastrophe or a new opportunity. And this difference is not in the events, but in our view of them. Action is our response to what we perceive, but not just any action, but one that serves the common good. This doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for others, but rather understanding that our true good is inseparable from the good of those around us. Will is the readiness to accept what is beyond our control, not submission, but wise understanding of the limits of our power. We cannot control the weather, but we can choose how to dress. We cannot change other people, but we can change our attitude toward them. These 3 principles work as a triumvirate. Each strengthens the others. Clear perception leads to right action. Right action strengthens inner peace. And inner peace allows us to perceive the world even more clearly. This is not a closed circle. It's a spiral leading upward. And the most beautiful thing about this is that you don't need to wait for perfect conditions to begin. Every moment is a new opportunity to apply these principles. Even now, reading these words. Remember the children's game Broken Telephone? One child whispers a word to another, who passes it on, and as a result, cow becomes king. Our mind works the same way. Between reality and our perception stands a whole army of interpreters, each adding something of their own. In the morning your colleague didn't greet you, your mind instantly creates a story. He's offended at me. I did something wrong. He doesn't respect me. But in reality, he just didn't sleep well or was thinking about something important. But your perception has already launched a chain reaction of emotions and decisions. The first principle of the Stoics, controlling your own perception, is not about becoming indifferent. It's about becoming accurate, like a scientist who distinguishes facts from assumptions, like an artist who sees true colors, not those that seem wrong in poor lighting. Think about how you react to criticism. Most people perceive it as an attack on their personality, but what if you learn to see it simply as information? Not I'm being insulted, but I'm being given feedback. Not I'm bad, but there's an area for development. Changing perception automatically changes your entire reaction. The second principle, properly directing your actions, is about the fact that every action matters, not because someone judges us, but because we shape ourselves with every choice. When you help a colleague with a project, you're not just doing work, you're becoming a person who helps. When you keep your word, you're not just fulfilling an obligation, you're becoming a reliable person. But there's a nuance. Right action is not always the one that brings immediate benefit or recognition. Sometimes it means telling the truth when it would be easier to remain silent. Sometimes refusing temptation when no one is watching. Sometimes standing up for someone who cannot defend themselves. The Stoics called this serving the common good. But this is not abstract philosophy. This is concrete practice. When you work honestly, you serve the common good. When you raise children with love and wisdom, you serve the future. When you care for the environment, you serve the planet. The third principle, Readiness to accept what you cannot control is the hardest. We're used to fighting against everything we don't like. Weather, traffic jams, other people's behavior, the economic situation. We spend enormous amounts of energy on what is beyond our power. Imagine you're swimming in the ocean. You can fight the waves, waste energy, choke, or you can learn to swim with the current, using the water's force to move forward. This is not capitulation. This is wisdom. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means selective struggle, directing energy where you can actually change something, to your thoughts, words, actions, attitudes, and letting go of what is beyond your control. These three principles don't work separately. They create a unified system of inner freedom. There's a parable about two prisoners in neighboring cells. One cursed fate daily, raged at the guards, planned escape, and lived in constant stress. The other read, meditated, helped fellow prisoners, and even found ways to teach illiterate cellmates. Formally, both were not free, but who among them truly lived in prison? Here's the paradox of human existence. The strongest chains are those we create for ourselves. Our indignation at what we cannot change, our dependence on others' opinions, our inability to control our own reactions. And conversely, true freedom begins where we realize the limits of our power and focus on what truly depends on us. Marcus Aurelius's three principles are not just philosophical theory, they are a practical tool for daily life. When your subordinate makes a mistake, the first question is not, who's to blame? But how do I perceive this situation? Perhaps instead of a catastrophe, you'll see an opportunity for learning. Instead of a reason for anger, a chance to show managerial wisdom. When the economic situation worsens, instead of panic, you ask yourself, what can I do? Perhaps it's time to master new skills. Perhaps review expenses. Perhaps find additional sources of income. Action instead of helpless worry. When a loved one is ill, you cannot change the diagnosis, but you can control your presence, care, support. You can be the force that helps them fight. This is no less than the ability to heal. This is the ability to love. The most interesting thing is that these principles work as a filter. They automatically filter out what doesn't matter and concentrate attention on what's important. You stop wasting time discussing what the government does. You start thinking about what you can do. You stop judging others. You start working on yourself. You stop fearing the future. You start creating it today. But most importantly, these three principles give what modern people so lack, a sense of control. Not illusory control over the entire world, but real control over what truly matters, over your own mind, your own actions, your own attitude toward life. Imagine you're a ship's captain in a storm. You cannot control the wind, waves, weather, but you can control the rudder, sails, course. And this is what makes you a true captain, not a victim of circumstances. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire in difficult times. He lost many children, fought plague epidemics, waged exhausting wars. But he remained in history not as a victim of circumstances, but as a wise ruler and profound philosopher. Because he applied these three principles daily, hourly, every moment. And now the most important question, are you ready to become the captain of your own life? Are you ready to take responsibility for your perception, your actions, your attitude toward what you cannot change? The answer to this question doesn't require words. It reveals itself in how you will live the next hour, the next day, the next year. And the most beautiful thing about this philosophy is that you can start right now with the next breath, the next thought, the next choice.